America's two great pastimes collide on this podcast. It is baseball and making money. From the dog days of summer through the October Classic, Greg Bases Peterson's going to be free swinging at the betting board as he tries to hit a grand slam for your bankroll. Now here is GP.
Hello one and all, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It is a Saturday edition of MLB Overtime Betting. Greg Peterson broadcasting from the Azuña Tequila Studios out here in beautiful Las Vegas. We've got another fantastic show for you as Ryan Spaeder, you can follow him on Twitter at the Ace of Spaeder. He is out with a new book called The Incredible Baseball Stats Version 2. He is going to be joining me in the second segment, talk a little bit about some of the preseason predictions that he made in baseball, and just talk about what he's seen in the baseball season so far. He's got some very interesting takes. He goes into the analytics. He's a believer in, I guess you could call it, new age baseball, so I'm going to really have a lot of fun with this one. In the final segment, I'm going to give you a side and total on every game on the betting board today, and a little something I like to call touch 'em all. But first, I had this question posed to me. This was actually not via Twitter. This was through a buddy that texted me, and he talked about streak betting. When a team is on a win streak of 3+ games or a losing streak of 3+ games, do I like to ride it? And my answer to that is, it depends. Now, if I were to personally just back every one of these streaks, just blindly bet every one of them, I bet it would be a little bit profitable. I'm one of those people, I like to take it situation by situation. And I think the biggest thing is taking a look at the pitchers that are going to be going on the mound the next day. Let's say, for example, the Kansas City Royals are on a 4-game winning streak, and then they have Homer Bailey taking the mound. I don't think I would bet the money of my worst enemy on the Kansas City Royals in that spot because Homer Bailey just flat out awful. Meanwhile, if the Washington Nationals are just on this atrocious losing streak, and then they have Max Scherzer taking the mound, you know what? You got to take a look at Max Scherzer, and I think a lot has to do with the bullpen use as well, because sometimes we notice that some of these other teams are using their bullpens a lot, and it goes into a little bit about what we saw on Friday as well, because what we saw is a massive slugfest that happened in the world of baseball. And typically when you see these massive slugfests and then you see some good pitchers going out there the next day, you got to think that that ace is going to feel a little bit more motivated to go out there and give a good performance as well. So those are a couple angles I look at with regards to win streaks. And I gave you a little bit on harebrained totals as well because we did see a lot of them. And here are some trends that I'm looking to back, and here are some trends that I'm looking to fade.
So what teams and players is Greg looking to back? He will lay it on you in the call-up.
Overs in Seattle Mariners games. Right now, White Hawk, they played against the Chicago White Sox yesterday, and they lost the game by a count of 10-8. This was just an insane game. The White Sox get out to a 6-1 lead. The Mariners then lead it 8-6 just to give up the lead once again. The Seattle Mariners were hurt by some bad fielding in this one as they had 3 errors, and all of which were by Tim Beckham, who has been sensational at the plate this year. He's batting .353, but 3 errors in this game, 5 errors for the year. You just cannot have that. D. Gordon actually left this game as well, so that's a little bit interesting. But I will say, Domingo Santana continues his hot hitting. He wound up hitting a home run, his 4th. He's batting just under .300. You also had Mitch Haniger going deep for this team. And then you had Ryan Healy also hitting a bomb. But for the Chicago White Sox, they're also getting some good hitting as well. Tim Anderson went yard. He is now hitting over .400 for the year. He had 3 hits in this game, 4 runs. He was absolutely stellar. Jose Abreu and Yoan Moncada continue to rake for the Chicago White Sox team, and they're playing a lot of overs themselves. Angels are playing a lot of unders. Their game against the Texas Rangers went under. They've only played 1 over so far this year. The Tampa Bay Rays have yet to play an over, as if you took the total of 7 in this one, you got to push. The Tampa Bay Rays wind up knocking out the San Francisco Giants by a count of 5-2. Taylor Glasnow looked good in this game. 6 strong innings. He had 6 strikeouts, only issued 1 free pass. The bullpen gave up 2 runs for the Tampa Bay Rays, which is very unlike the Tampa Bay Rays bullpen, but still, they're certainly doing a good job. And Derek Rodriguez just had a bad start to this game. He gave up 4 earned runs in 5.1 innings, all of which came in the first inning, and that was what really sunk them, as Kevin Kiermaier was able to go deep along with Yandy The Tampa Bay Rays bats are starting to get on track, and so are the bats of the San Diego Padres. This is a team that is now 5-3. They've been playing some good baseball so far this year, and if you've been taking the plus prices with the Padres, you've been doing quite well, as it was a home run by Hunter Renfroe, and Fernando Tatis Jr., that was really the difference in this one. Hunter Renfroe, by the way, should be getting more at-bats than he is. He was a pinch hitter in this game. He's been doing a sensational job for this team so far this year. That was his third of the year. And then for the St. Louis Cardinals, they didn't get the best start out of Jack Flaherty, who was able to go scoreless through 5 innings. But what he did is he jacked up his pitch count, and that meant that they had to go to the bullpen quite a bit in this game. The St. Louis Cardinals bullpen, you thought was a little bit improved, but Alex Reyes winds up giving 3 runs in this game, and then giving up 2 runs in this game was Dominique Leone as well. The St. Louis Cardinals have a little bit of work to be done there. And something else that has work to be done, the Cincinnati Reds bats, they go scoreless for the 3rd straight game. They lose to the Pittsburgh Pirates by a count of 2-0. This is a Reds team that they just cannot hit the broadside of a barn right now. Joey Votto's hitting 200. Yasiel Puig, 125. Eugenio Suarez, 227. Matt Kemp, 063. Jose Peraza, 227. Tucker Barnhart, 263. Jose Iglesias, 313. Their best 2 hitters are their 7 and 8 hitters right now. And then you've got Schebler, who is coming off the bench at pinch hit. He's hitting 048. It's absolutely insane. They made Joe Musgrove look like Cy Young out there. He went 7 innings, 8 Ks, gave up 3 hits. And then Vasquez and Keela were able to come in and shut the door. Pittsburgh Pirates pitching is pretty good, but it's not that good. But something else that is good, you got to be back in the Philadelphia Phillies on the run line, and you got to be taking their totals over. They don't necessarily have great relief pitching, but what they do have is a bunch of guys they're able to mash as they knock off the Twins by a count of 10-4. It was 4 RBI by Rhys Hoskins in this game that really helped out the team. Bryce Harper actually went 0 for 4, but JT Realmuto was able to get 2 runs in this game, despite the fact that he didn't get a hit himself. It's just everyone that's providing for this team right now. Maikel Franco, Hernandez, Odubel, Herrera, Andrew McCutchen, everyone's just getting the job done right now for the Phillies, and the Phillies scored all 10 of those runs without hitting a single bomb. A team that was hitting some bombs, the Arizona Diamondbacks, they have been really swinging the bat well, and they dropped the Boston Red Sox to 2-7 as they were playing a little bit of home run derby in this game as they won the game 15-8. Adam Jones has his 4th home run of the year. Alex Avila hit his 2nd home run. Ketel Marte had 2 home runs, his 2nd and 3rd of the campaign. And Vargas even went deep as a pinch hitter. And then you take a look at the Boston Red Sox. Their bats have actually been doing pretty decent. Mitch Moreland and Mookie Betts were both able to go yard. You've got JD Martinez, who is hitting .351 in the middle of the lineup. Xander Bogaerts is doing an okay job. Andrew Benintendi is starting to come around. He had 2 hits in this game, but man, Rick Porcello off to a rough start this year. His ERA is currently 13.5, and then they had Bryce Johnson coming out of the bullpen. He gave up 7 runs in 1.1 innings. Tyler Thornburg had a scoreless inning in this one. You got to give him a little bit of credit, but the Boston Red Sox pitching, you got to be looking at overs with both those teams, and you got to be looking at unders with the Indians right now. They were able to knock off the Toronto Blue Jays by a count of 3-2. Both these teams are hitting under 200 as collectives right now. The Indians are dealing with some injuries to Lindor and Jason Kipnis, but with that said, it looks like they're going to be getting Bradley Zimmer back in the lineup any day now. That's going to help. I think that he just got off the 10-day injured list today, but in this one, Shane Bieber gave them a quality start. He gave up 2 runs in 6 innings, and then from there, the Cleveland Indians bullpen was able to get the job done. You got to like to see that. And for the Toronto Blue Jays, they had Trent Thornton take the mound. He was okay in 5 2/3 innings. He gave up 2 runs. He gave up 2 walks, but in this one, it was Joe Biagini that really gave it up. This is a guy that just is not a good reliever whatsoever. Whenever you have him on the mound, you just can never feel good about it. It was the Cleveland Indians being able to get the job done by a count of 3-2. I was talking about the high totals before, none of which was bigger than that in the Milwaukee Brewers versus Chicago Cubs game. Brewers win 13-10. Ryan Braun hit a home run, his 2nd of the year. Eric Thames hit his 1st home run of the year. Hector Perez hit his 1st home run of the year. Yasmani Grandal hit a home run. Orlando Arcia hit his 2nd home run of the year. And I think the Bat Boy also went yard in this one as well, as Christian Yelich also added in their 2 RBI. Ryan Braun had 4 RBI. And then the Cubs were hitting as well. Jason Hayward hit a home run. That was his 1st of the year. Daniel Descalso, who, oh, by the way, right now hitting .500. He hit his 1st home run of the year. Wilson Contreras was able to go yard, but the relief pitching for the Chicago Cubs, still not good. The relief pitching of the Brewers, currently not good with Corey Knebel and Jeremy Jeffries out on the 10-day injured list. So I thought that was very interesting. And then one other thing that you have to take note of, how about the LA Dodgers being able to put it on the Colorado Rockies late? The Dodgers were able to get a 10-6 win. The Dodgers had only 1 run through the first 4 innings, and then they exploded for 9 after that. They also don't have a whole lot going out of their bullpen, as Brock Stewart and company just were not able to get the job done. Pedro Baez has been an enigma throughout his career, and then giving up a pair of runs in the ninth inning was good old Yimi Garcia. He has not been good this year. But with that said, the bats of the LA Dodgers have been quite good so far this year. Russell Martin was able to go deep for his first home run of the year. Max Muncy had his second home run. Cody Bellinger, my goodness, how hot is this guy? He has 6 home runs already this year, and now he has 16 RBI through 8 games. He's on pace for 324 RBI. That's absolutely insane. And then Trevor Story was able to get going for the Colorado Rockies. He had a pair of dingers. One was in the third and one was in the ninth inning. Nolan Arenado was able to drive in a pair of runs, but it was just too little too late, as the Dodgers appear to be a team that's rolling right now. And some teams with some plus money value have to be the Arizona Diamondbacks at this point. You got to really like what the Brewers are doing as well, the San Diego Padres. And the Dodgers just continue to be a steamroller as well. So those are some of the trends I'm looking at in baseball. A lot of overs right now. I'm noticing that first 5 unders, by the way. I know that Mike Palm has been playing a lot of these. Good buddy over there at the D. He has been doing well with those, but full game, I've been looking at overs, and they have been quite successful for me. So that's a little bit of what I'm looking at in regards to trends for baseball. And now let's get a little bit more of a in-depth feel on some of these stats of baseball. Let's get more of a modern-day approach on it, and let's just have some fun. Ryan Spaeder going to be joining me next, and that is right here on MLB Overtime Betting.
Greg is going to the bullpen as he makes a call to the Azuñia hotline.
Welcome back to MLB Overtime Betting. Greg Peterson broadcasting from the Azuñia Tequila Studios out here in Las Vegas. Great pleasure to be joined by our next guest. You can follow him on Twitter at the Ace of Spaeder. It is Ryan Spaeder, and Spaeder, that last name is spelled Spaeder. Tremendous guy. He's a gentleman that has served our country as a U.S. Marine. He does incredible work just breaking down the incredible stats of baseball, and he actually has a book out right now called The Incredible Baseball Stats Version 2. It is available for pre-order and everything like that. His pinned tweet at the top of his Twitter will give you all the information on that. And Ryan is joining me right now. How are you doing on this fine day, my friend?
Doing great, brother. I really appreciate you having me on.
I appreciate you joining me as well. And I know that you had a tweet a couple days ago about Joey Votto and how he's led the league in on-base percentage in so many years. What have you seen from this Reds team so far that has had them struggling so far? Because we all know that Joey Votto does a great job of being able to get on base for this team. You've got Eugenio Suarez and company, but it just feels like their bats are just ice cold and they're stuck out in the Arctic and they can't get anything going.
It's just a situation where it's, one of baseball Twitter's favorite things in the world. People love saying to me whenever I put out a fact over a short span, and, it's kind of a small sample size type thing. It's going to take a little bit for these guys to get together. I think the goal was to have this sort of thing, the rough start, get over with in spring training. Maybe you should have used your core guys in a few more games, let them get their ABs together. But I foresee good things from this Reds team. One thing I would really like to see the Reds do is sign Dallas Keuchel. I think he's the absolute optimal place for him is Cincinnati because, first of all, if you look at his interleague numbers, they're insane. It's just, I feel like they're one piece away from having a real shot at this NL Central, which is wide open as far as I'm concerned. Really, any of the 5 teams could win it. And oddly enough, I took some heat for it, but I picked the Brewers to finish last in that division this year.
And you're talking to a Milwaukee Brewers fan. We will now end this interview. Thank you so much for your time. No, I'm kidding, of course.
I'm sorry.
Oh, man. It is all good. But I know what you mean with the Milwaukee Brewers because right now they've got Corey Knebel and Jeremy Jeffress on the 10-day injured list. Obviously, they've got a great offense. Christian Yelich was able to hit 4 home runs in 4 games this year. But Jesus Aguilar, he's off to a little bit of a rough start this season, and we saw a little bit of regression from the second half of the year as well. What do you think the Brewers will be able to do this year? Because you said that you had them finishing last, and I do think that the starting rotation is a big woe for this team, and I could see it where the Brewers just get into a bunch of slugfest because they have a bunch of starters that are not able to give them quality starts.
Well, truthfully, I think every team in that division will win somewhere between 82 and 88 games, and it just the way that I was looking at it, just so happened I picked the Brewers to be the one that wins 82. I just think that division's going to beat up on each other. They're all playing each other, 18, 19 games. And then just see it unfolding in a way that it's going to be really tight. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Brewers win the division. I wouldn't be surprised if they come in third. I wouldn't be surprised if they come in last. I wouldn't be surprised for any of those teams, except for maybe the Pirates if they won it. That would be something. But in reality, it really wouldn't be that big of a shock to me because I see a lot of good on that team as well.
Absolutely, as we've got Ryan Spaeder joining me right here on MLB Overtime Betting. And one team that I'm very concerned about right now is the Chicago Cubs, because right now they've got Xavier Cedeno on the 10-day injured list along with Brandon Morrow. We've seen that their bullpen is just a complete dumpster fire right now. The past couple games against the Atlanta Braves, not a good look. Yu Darvish has absolute command issues. Is it far-fetched for me to say that it wouldn't be surprised if the Chicago Cubs finish 4th or 5th in this division? Because I just don't like what I'm seeing from this team right now.
No, it's absolutely not. And again, I go back. You can put those teams anywhere. And truthfully, at this stage, other than the Pirates, the biggest surprise would be the Cubs winning it, because we've seen in modern baseball, the bullpen is one of the single most important things. And another team, the Nationals, have been awful in terms of their bullpen. And you just can't succeed without that. It's an absolute necessity in Major League Baseball. And you're not going to see teams succeeding with just strong starting pitching and a decent or strong lineup going forward. And the Cubs are going to have to make something happen. And you mentioned Darvish. I hate to, I don't know. You don't want to gloat about being right about somebody being terrible. But, I saw from the beginning, I was like, this is not a good signing for them. His arm is just not the same. And it has been even worse than I could have imagined. I really like Cole Hamels on that team. But Lester, he's always reliable. Hendricks got a nice deal. You got to I don't know if the solution is moving Darvish to the pen maybe, and maybe he can give you a strong inning or two, and then you kind of kill two birds with one stone and fix two problems at once, potentially. But Darvish in the starting rotation, that ain't it.
Oh, I'm right there with you. Neither was Tyler Chatwood last year, who's now in the bullpen and not doing quite well there, as we do have Ryan Spaeder joining me right here on the podcast. And I think that it is important that you point out bullpens, because I think that it is one of the biggest factors in baseball right now. And one team that we've seen have a terrific bullpen going all the way back to last year is the Tampa Bay Rays. I do feel like they are able to be a wild card contender out there in the AL East. And heck, with the way that the Red Sox and the Yankees have gotten off to slow starts, maybe they can even compete for the division. What have you seen from this team so far? Because I really do like the way the Rays are trending.
New age baseball. I love the Rays. I actually took them to win the wild card, and I made a sort of a wild card pick myself. I like the Rays and the Twins to finish with the same record and then play a game 163, and the Rays to go out there and take that. I really like their lineup. It's a very dynamic and unique lineup. I was a huge fan of them getting Tommy Pham last year. Cardinals fans were ready to get rid of him, and the numbers that you're not going to find on the back of the baseball card were spectacular. I mean, the guy's average exit velocity off the bat was on point. He was really hitting a lot of hard hit outs. The only thing he was really guilty of last year with the Cardinals, because he picked it up with the Rays, was he wasn't hitting it where they ain't, as they say. I'm a big fan of this Rays team. It's amazing the success that they're able to have in a division with the Yankees and the Red Sox. Yankees, speaking of teams plagued by injuries, I really like the Rays to win the wild card. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised if they even squeak into second place ahead of the Yankees or the Red Sox, especially at this stage in the game where both of these teams, they're playing awful. But again, it's that small sample size type thing. But a big advocate of the Rays. You got me on that one.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you. And then speaking of teams with good bullpens, ironically enough, the San Francisco Giants have been looking quite good in the bullpen as well. They are going to be taking on the Rays on Saturday. And I've noticed that the San Francisco Giants right now just can't get out of their own way on offense. Brandon Belt has hit a couple home runs this year. You've got Evan Longoria at the middle of the lineup, but man, guys like Duger and company just not getting the job done at this point. What do you make out of the San Francisco Giants team? Because they've got great pitching. They've got a couple guys I really like, especially Derek Rodriguez. Jeff Samardzija, I think, is going to have a little bit of a bounce back year this year. I do like Madison Bumgarner, even though he got shelled, but they just don't have any offense to be able to give these pitchers 3 runs a game on a consistent basis.
Yeah, to be honest with you, you can't do it without a bullpen, but you can't do it with only a bullpen. And I don't foresee really any success for the San Francisco Giants. I think they really hurt themselves last year by signing or trading. Did they trade for McCutchen and Longoria, or they signed one of them? Honestly, I can't recall.
They signed Longoria and McCutchen, and then they traded him away to the Yankees midseason.
Right. I'm a big fan of McCutchen, but I really didn't like how he played in that yard. It's a bigger ballpark, and he's not the same defensive stellar player that he once was. He's got to be in left field the rest of his career, then potentially even DH at the end of it. But McCutchen, in the situation that he's in Philadelphia, I find that to be ideal. I really like him as a leadoff hitter. He's a huge on-base guy. He sees a lot of pitches. And then Philly's got a smaller yard, so playing left field isn't much of a difficult task for him, even at this later stage in his career. But just to get back to the San Francisco Giants, I just don't see it for them. And I'd be willing to bet that Madison Bumgarner is one of those huge pieces that's moved at that single trade deadline this year that everybody's looking forward to.
I think that that's going to be really interesting as well, because he is on the last year of his contract, as we've got Ryan Spaeder joining me right here on MLB Overtime. And you mentioned the Philadelphia Phillies. They're going to be taking on the Minnesota Twins on Saturday. Going on the hill for them is going to be Jake Arrieta. I think this Phillies team is so interesting because we talk about bullpens. The Phillies bullpen, let's face it, it's not necessarily very good, but you take a look at the acquisitions that they make out there in the offseason. Bryce Harper, obviously a big one. You mentioned Andrew McCutchen. JT Realmuto is huge. Gene Segura's at the top of the lineup, and all these guys are hitting right now. Is it just me, or does the Phillies feel like sort of your beer league softball team where they could just drive it out of the yard, and at the same time, on any given night, they could give up 10-plus runs?
I love the analogy. I think what's going to be huge for the Phillies in terms of whether or not they're going to win this division is, are their starting pitchers? Because, Nola's going to be there. He had a rough second start, but are their starting pitchers going to be able to give you 6 innings? Because you mentioned the bullpen has some holes. However, it has some very, very strong pieces. So if you can get 6 out of your starter and then go 7, 8, 9 with Sir Anthony and Neshek, and then, of course, Robertson, who had a rough go the other day, but I don't put much stock in that. I think he'll be just fine. I think that team's going to have a lot of success. And I myself am a Phillies fan, bit of a homer when it comes to my team. I also picked the Phillies to win the division in game 163 against the Nationals. I think they'll finish with just about the same record. And so I said, why not? Let's see if we can make a call here with another 163. Phillies versus Nationals, one bonus game in the regular season, and I like the Phillies and Aaron Nola to take that.
And I think you bring up something very interesting with the NL East. I think this might be the most competitive division in all of baseball. I know that the NL Central is going to be brutal. I know that the AL East, with the rise of the Rays, is going to be very interesting as well. But I think that this might be one of the most tightly knit divisions out there, because you bring up the Nationals. They don't necessarily have great bullpen pitching, but they do have a bunch of good starters. They signed Patrick Corbin in the offseason. The New York Mets are finally starting to hit. They bring in Robinson Cano. Now you've got Pete Alonso, who they bring up early. I absolutely love that move for them. I think that you could see a bunch of different teams, maybe aside from the Miami Marlins, all be there in the last week of the regular season.
Well, as far as I see this division going, honestly, I think the Braves had unfounded success last year. A lot of their youngsters stepped up. So I kind of see that entire team having a sort of sophomore-type slump and maybe finishing around 500. The Mets, the concern there is always the injuries. So I could see them hanging around until maybe July or August. I don't really see them being a major player at the very end of the season. And then, like I mentioned, the Nationals and Phillies, I just really like these teams for very different reasons. The Nationals have that sort of dynamic lineup where you got speed, you got the ability to get on base, you got situational hitting. They have great starting pitching. Their bullpen has been an absolute disaster. But then the Phillies, you've got, like you said, I like the beer league softball analogy. They're just going to beat you down. I think it's just going to come down to, really, I'm hoping that game 163, because I think that'd be cool. But I think what it's going to come down to is, what are these teams able to do during the season in terms of making a move? Will one of them consider Kimbrel? Will one of them consider Keuchel, who I really hope goes to the Reds, as we mentioned? But will one of them try to make a move for Madison Bumgarner? I think that's what's really, in the event that my 163 prediction is incorrect, I think that's what it's going to come down to, as to who is going to be able to take this division.
I think that this is going to be a whole lot of fun to watch, as we've got Ryan Spaeder right here on the podcast. And Ryan, where's a team or two that's a little bit off the beaten path that you're looking to be able to have perhaps a good year? I'm taking a look at the Detroit Tigers, I like the way that they've been playing so far. I don't think that they're going to have staying power or anything like that, but with how bad the AL Central is, I think they could pick up a couple wins there. Is there a team or two that you have your eye on?
I always like the Rockies. I don't think they have enough to win that division, and I think they lost a lot of big pieces. I took them to win the division last year, and I was off a game. I think the Dodgers got them by 1, I believe. Unfortunately, because I had a couple tickets in Vegas. Took them, I think, 12-1 or something to win that division for $100. So it would have been nice to win that. But I mentioned the Reds earlier. I really like this team, even though they struggled early on. I think the key move for them, I'm harping on this, but they got to sign Keuchel. Give him his 5 years and his $100 million. I think he would pitch fantastic baseball in that ballpark. And then in terms of other teams, Padres, they're young and really, really talented. And it's going to be a fun squad to watch. I took them to win the West, and it's kind of, I don't know, maybe not the popular pick because, everybody always likes the Dodgers and they're absolutely hammering the ball. I don't trust the Dodgers' ability to stay healthy, and that's the rotation and the lineup. So I don't see any way that the Dodgers just absolutely run away with that division. Give me the Reds and the Padres as my, I don't know what you want to call them, my underdogs to watch.
I like it. And Ryan, I would like to close it up with this. I know that people can find you on Twitter at the Ace of Spaeder. I know that you've got your book out, Incredible Baseball Stats version 2. Let people know where they can find you elsewhere as well and what you're all working on.
Yeah, well, I got a website. It's theaceofspaeder.com, same as my Twitter handle. On there, I do the same type of work that I used to do for sporting news and for NBC Sports, and then I'm considering doing a little bit of stuff with some other sports there. I previously worked for the Buffalo News covering the Bills, which was a lot more fun than I anticipated. So maybe some of that stuff on. And then also we did the player ballot where I allowed former players to vote for Hall of Famers and compared them to the results of the actual ballots. Then on there, that's where you can get the book, Incredible Baseball Stats. It's the second go round. I wrote it with my good buddy Kevin Reevey. We were really happy with how it turned out this time. Not that we weren't the first time. When we sent it to print the first time around, I didn't feel like we had a finished product. I thought it was good. It was not finished in my mind. This time, I'm going to say you're going to read a finished product, and I really hope people enjoy it. And just the last thing on that, we are able to get hardcovers this time around because our publisher did not have faith that a book would sell because somebody has a significant number of Twitter followers. Fortunately, they were wrong. The first one sold pretty well. The publisher made enough money that they were willing to print it in hardcover for us this time around. So we've got 1,000 hardcovers printed, Kevin and I, and you can buy them directly from us right on the website.
That is spectacular. Ryan, great stuff today. Would love to have you back. Thank you so much for joining me. And coming up next, it is time that I get into my plays of the day in baseball. I give you a side and total on every game on the card as we touch them all.
Hey, I'm Steve Heitner, the guy who uttered the famous phrase, "That's gold." And that's the inspiration of my new podcast, That's Gold with Steve Heitner. We talk sports, sports betting, movies, comedy, food, drink, Vegas, music, movies, and more. 5 days a week. Did I say movies twice? Look, guys love it, whether they're hip or worried about breaking a hip. Find us on Apple and Google Podcasts, as well as Spotify and Stitcher. That's Gold with me, Steve Heitner.
Welcome back to MLB Overtime. Greg is throwing a gem, so yeah, he better not blow it.
We're back here in the Azuñia Tequila Studios for MLB Overtime Betting. Big thanks to Ryan Spaeder for joining me in the last segment. You can follow him on Twitter at Ace of Spaeder. He was fantastic. We're going to need to get him on a little bit more often. And if you guys ever have guest requests for this podcast, since this is a little bit of a newer podcast, we've been around for a whole week and a half, feel free to tweet them in at unit_81, along with any questions that you might have for the podcast. But now there is no time for answering questions in this segment because we've got to give you a side and total on every game on Saturday's betting board as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Please note that any changes that are made to these plays are going to be noted on my Twitter page at unit_81. You'll notice that a lot of these plays are locked in and some of them are still hanging out there in the balance. and I will be updating the numbers that I get as I get them on my Twitter page as well, at GN_81. And we go in rotation order. 9:51, 9:52 on the betting rotation. It is the New York Mets playing host to the Washington Nationals. Patrick Corbin goes on the mound for the Washington Nationals. Steven Matz goes for the Mets. The total I'm seeing on this one is 7, shaded over. You're getting between minus 120 and minus 125 juice on the over. Under is between even money and plus 105. Steam coming in on the Washington Nationals. Offshore opener had this right around minus 105 for the Washington Nationals. They are now minus 118, and I'm even seeing a minus 120 out there. If you like the Mets, you're getting between plus 108 and plus 110. I just don't have a lot of faith in Steven Matz, to be honest. He sometimes is able to pitch well, but other times he just gets absolutely lost out there. He sometimes has some command issues. Meanwhile, Patrick Corbin, he's really been ascending in recent years. In each of the past 3 years, he's really been able to improve on his numbers. And I will say, for Steven Matz, he actually did have a good first start of the year. He gave up only 1 earned run in a little bit over 5 innings, so you do like what you see out of him there. But with Steven Matz, it just feels like sometimes he doesn't necessarily put it all together. He's got good swing and miss stuff, but as I alluded to a little bit earlier, he just gives up a couple too many walks, and we see him get hit and hit hard. I believe that when the Nationals scored over 21s on the Mets last year, it was off of Steven Matz, but the Mets bats do now have a little bit more pop in them to be able to aid him, and I certainly don't think that Steven Matz is going to have quite an outing like he had last year. What we're noticing with the Mets is that Robinson Cano is off to a little bit of a slow start, but Wilson Ramos and Pete Alonso have really gotten things going. Both these guys are hitting over 330. In the case of Alonso, he has a home run and 7 RBI, and Ramos is doing a great job with his slugging as well. Anthony Rendon has gotten off to a nice start to the season for the Washington Nationals. He's already got 2 dingers, is hitting over 400. Ryan Zimmerman has been able to drive in 6 RBI, despite the fact that, well, let's face it, he's not necessarily off to the best start of the year in regards to batting average, but with the Washington Nationals, something that you have to be very, very weary of is the fact that their bullpen has not been good this year, and that goes for the Mets as well. You don't have a lot of faith when Robbie Gesellman and company come in. Obviously, you have Edwin Diaz now in the 9th inning, but the guys that get the ball to him, not necessarily good. So for that reason, I am taking this game over. I locked in the over of 7.5 at plus 105 juice, and in this spot, I do think that Patrick Corbin is a little bit of a better starting pitcher. I know that Trey Turner is out of the lineup for the Nationals, but I think that Juan Soto is going to be able to have a good game with the bat, and I think that the Nationals are going to be able to get the job done in this spot. So locked in both the Washington Nationals and the over on this game. 9:53, 9:54 on the betting rotation. You've got the Cincinnati Reds, and they are on to Pittsburgh to face off against the Pirates. Trevor Williams goes on the bump for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Meanwhile, for the Cincinnati Reds, you've got Tanner Roark. The total on this one I'm seeing is 7. The over is shaded between minus 115 and minus 120. Under is between minus 105 and even money. We're actually seeing one under of minus 120, which makes that over of even money. So you are seeing a lot of range out there with the juice on this total. So be mindful of that no matter what side you like. And the side on this one is a little bit less herky-jerky, as currently it is the Pirates between a minus 118, minus 120 favorite. If you like the Reds, you're getting between plus 108 and plus 110. This is a spot where I just really got to look at the Pittsburgh Pirates. I wound up blocking this play in already. I just think that Trevor Williams is an absolutely sensational pitcher. After the All-Star break last year, he had a sub-2 ERA, got off to a really nice start last year, being able to get a win in his first start, did not allow an earned run in that start as well. I think that he's really an ace in the making. Meanwhile, Tanner Roark gave up quite a few runs in his first start of the year, and last year he got off to a 4-12 start, and he's pitching for a Cincinnati Reds team that they just haven't gotten the bats going so far. Dan Diedrich is not hitting well at all. Tucker Barnhart, I guess you could argue, is right now the best bat in this lineup, as the Reds are just getting shut out day after day after day. You got to think that they're going to be able to scratch across more than 0 runs in this game, but how many are you going to be able to get? Because Joey Votto is doing a good job of being able to draw some walks, but he's not really generating a lot of hits. Eugenio Suarez, once again, drawing his walks, but he's not doing a good job of being able to make hard contact. Yasiel Puig is not getting on in general. Matt Kemp looks absolutely awful. There's just not too many redeeming qualities with this lineup. Meanwhile, for the Pirates, Yeah, they're not necessarily ripping the cover off the ball, but Francisco Cervelli has been doing better in recent games. I think that Sterling Marte is going to be able to come around for this team. John O'Kong has seen a little bit of a dip in his production, but towards the beginning of the year, he was really getting the job done. And then out there in the outfield as well, Colin Moran, Ray has a home run, a couple RBI, and is hitting the ball well. So I think that Pittsburgh is going to be able to get off to a good start, being able to get to a shaky Tanner Roark. I think the Reds bullpen is decent, but they don't necessarily floor me either. So for that reason, I did wind up taking this total over. I certainly don't think the Reds are going to be getting shut out or anything like that, but I think the Pirates are going to be able to hang on 5 spots. So for that reason, I wound up taking this total over, and I am laying the small number with the Pirates. Both these plays are locked in. 9:55, 9:56 on the betting rotation. You've got the San Diego Padres on the road facing off against the St. Louis Cardinals. Micah Waka Waka going up for the St. Louis Cardinals. Meanwhile, Chris Paddock going for the San Diego Padres. You're going to be getting a small plus price with the San Diego Padres of between plus 103 and plus 108. Meanwhile, if you like the Cardinals, you're laying between minus 113 and minus 118. Total on this one is 7.5. The juice is shaded both ways, essentially. If you like the over, you're getting between minus 105 and minus 115. If you like the under, you're going to be laying between minus 105 and minus 115. This is a spot where I've got to look at the St. Louis Cardinals in a little bit of a bounce back spot. We did see that they got hit and hit pretty hard by the San Diego Padres yesterday, and we're noticing that the Padres bats are starting to come alive. They did make some big offseason signings, Manny Machado by far being the biggest one, but Ian Kinsler also comes into the lineup. I do like what Will Myers is able to provide to this team as well. He isn't quite hitting the way that he did in the first couple games of the year, but he's still doing a good job of being able to crush the ball. He's hitting over 300. Famio Reyes is finally starting to come around for this team, and we saw Fernando Tatis Jr. hit his second home run of the year, and Hunter Renfroe really goes under the radar for this team. He was able to have a pinch hit home run yesterday for the Padres. That was his third. Meanwhile, for the Cardinals, we're noticing that their bats are starting to eat up a little bit as well. Matt Carpenter, Paul DeJong, and Paul Goldschmidt all got hits for the Cardinals yesterday. Marcell Ozuna, I think, is going to start to come around. He was able to drive in a run yesterday. Yadier Molina, Dexter Fowler, I don't know when they're going to be able to come around, but Colton Wong has been doing a good job at the bottom of the lineup, hitting over 400. So for that reason, I'm going to be looking at this total over. I do think that both these teams are going to be able to generate some offense, but I do like Michael Wacha a little bit more in this spot. I think that Chris Paddock is an ace in the making. We saw him give up just one earned run at his first start of his career against the San Francisco Giants. He's obviously a gifted player, but Michael Wacha is an ace himself. Before getting hurt last year, he was absolutely terrific in 15 starts. He went 84 innings. He had a 3.2 ERA, went 8-2. Does a good job of being able to keep the ball in the ballpark. Now, the one thing that you have to say about him is that sometimes he has a control issue. He had 36 walks in just 84 and a third innings last year. You even take a look at the year before, in 165 and 2/3 innings, 55 walks. So you got to think that he's going to allow a Padre or two to be able to reach base via the free pass, but I think he's going to be able to limit the damage there, and I think that the Cardinals are going to be able to come through with their bats in this spot. So for that reason, I am on the St. Louis Cardinals in this spot, noticing a lot of steam coming in on the Padres right now. The Sharps are just absolutely gobbling up this price with the San Diego Padres, so I'm holding off there, but I have already locked in this total over. We go to the battle out there in the great state of Wisconsin. 9:57, 9:58 on the betting rotation. The Chicago Cubs head to Wrigley Field North as they face off against the Milwaukee Brewers. Corbin Burns goes for the Milwaukee Brewers. Cole Hamels is going to be dueling him for the Chicago Cubs. Total on this one, I am seeing is 8.5. This one is shaded quite uniquely, as I'm seeing one book with the over and under both at minus 110. A couple books have the over at minus 105. Another one has it even money. And that means that at those other books, the under is between minus 115 and minus 120. If you like the Chicago Cubs, you're getting between plus 102 and plus 107 on the plus price. Meanwhile, the Brewers, you have to lay between minus 112 and minus 117. I don't understand why the Cubs are an underdog in this spot. I really do like Cole Hamels, even though he did get touched up in his first start against the Texas Rangers. It's not easy to pitch at the ballpark out there in Arlington, and we know that from his time with the Rangers, he just was not comfortable there. So I think that that was a little bit more of the ballpark than anything else. And Corbin Burns, he was terrific in relief for the Brewers last year, and he was terrific in the couple starts that he had, but he starts off the year by having a little bit of a rough outing himself. It is something that I really do think is noteworthy of him. Now, I will say, in his first start of the year, he also did have 12 strikeouts in 5 innings. That's absolutely terrific, but also in 5 innings, when you give up 4 runs, it sort of offsets the fact that you get 12 strikeouts. And with the Chicago Cubs, we all know that they've got some bats that are able to hit. Javi Baez doing a terrific job of being able to drive in some runs for this team. You've got Anthony Rizzo, who's one of the most consistent players out there in baseball. He seems to be very resistant to going completely ice cold. Kyle Schwarber's off to a decent start, along with Wilson Contreras. Ben Zobrist at the top of the lineup is raking as well. And Daniel Descalso, going into their game last night with the Brewers, was hitting over 450, so that was absolutely impressive. Meanwhile, for the Milwaukee Brewers, they've got guys that rake as well, with Lorenzo Cain, Christian Yelich, and Ryan Braun all out there in the outfield. Jesus Aguilar, though, I feel like is in for a little bit of regression. Mike Moustakas is off to a little bit of a rough start this year, and Orlando Arcia just can't hit the broadside of the barn at this point. So that is why I'm leaning towards the Cubs in this spot. And I do think that Cole Hamels, a guy that has pitched traditionally well against the Milwaukee Brewers, is going to have some success in this one. So I'm actually going to play this total under. I think the Cubs can win this game, something along the lines of 5-2, maybe 4-3. And I think the Cubs come through. So taking the plus price here with the Cubs and playing this total under. And I have locked in both of these plays. Next up, we've got 959, 960 on the betting rotation. It is the Miami Marlins on the road facing off against the Atlanta Braves. Sandy Alcantara is going to be going for the Miami Marlins. Meanwhile, you've got Kyle Wright on the bump for the Atlanta Braves. Currently, I am seeing some steam coming in on the Atlanta Braves as they are between a minus 156 and minus 162 favorite. If you like the Marlins, you're getting between plus 145 and plus 152. Total on this one, I'm seeing at 3 shops as 8, with the over at minus 120 and the under at even money. Meanwhile, the other shop, it has 8.5 as the total, with the under at minus 120 and the over even. Unfortunately, Mr. Wright was not so right in his first start against the Philadelphia Phillies this year, as he went 4.1 innings. He gave up 3 runs and allowed 5 men to reach base via the walk, so his command has been a little bit of an issue. And then when you take a look on the other side for the Miami Marlins, I actually like what I'm seeing out of Sandy Alcantara. From the first start of the year, he was able to go and have a scoreless outing out there against the New York Mets. He had a win there. In his couple starts last year, he went 34 innings. He had a massive issue with walks, but what he does a good job of is he doesn't necessarily get hit hard. He has some very good stuff. So for that reason, I'm actually looking at the plus price here with the Miami Marlins. You've got Starlin Castro, who's been doing a good job of being able to get on base and being able to deliver some power. Curtis Granderson at the top of the lineup gives this team a little bit of something. JT Riddle has hit a couple home runs for this team. And the ballpark out there in Atlanta plays a little bit more hitter-friendly than it has in the past. I remember the fact that there wasn't a whole lot of overs that were occurring last year in Atlanta, but that was more or less just, I would consider it a combination of the Braves having better than expected pitching and then being able to play a little bit of small ball. And hey, what we're noticing with the Marlins as well, Lewis Brinson is starting to hit, and you've also got Neil Walker, so all redeeming qualities for this team. For the Braves, they haven't necessarily gotten Josh Donaldson up and running. Freddie Freeman is a guy that I absolutely love. Ronald Acuna Jr., you got to think is going to turn things around. Nick Markakis is really starting to rake, though, and so is Ozzie Albies. This is a infield that is doing a great job of being able to hit the ball, especially with Dansby Swanson at the 8 spot. So for that reason, I am on this total over. I really do think that both these teams are going to be able to get some solid hits. I wound up taking the 8.5 at even juice to be able to mitigate that. But with that said, I'm going to be looking at that plus price with the Miami Marlins. I do think that they are going to be able to get to a younger pitcher in right, and with there being so many guys that are banged up in the Braves right now, they're relying on a lot of young arms out there in the bullpen. So I think that the Marlins are in a little bit of better shape there with that regard as well, though I will say Marlins bullpen not necessarily great either. So waiting on the price on the Miami Marlins, but I've already locked in the over in this game. 961, 962 on the betting rotation. It is the LA Dodgers in Colorado to face off against the Rockies. John Gray goes for the Rockies. Meanwhile, Walker, Texas Ranger Bueller goes for the LA Dodgers. Total on this one I am seeing is 10. I'm seeing one spot in which the juice is minus 110 on both the over and under. Everywhere else, the over is between minus 115 and minus 120, which makes the under between even money and minus 105. And currently, if you like the Colorado Rockies, you're getting between plus 128 and 130. Meanwhile, for the LA Dodgers, you're laying between 138 and 145. This is a spot where I think that the Dodgers should be able to win, and I actually think they should be able to win convincingly. I'm actually not taking a look so much at the money line with the Dodgers. I'm taking a look at the plus 110 run line on the Dodgers. I'm trying to see if I can get a plus 115 to plus 120 on this game, but I do think that the Dodgers should be able to get a convincing win in this game. I think that it's going to trend a little bit more under as well. We saw the Dodgers just absolutely pound the tar out of the ball the last couple innings of the game. The Rockies bullpen really got touched up, and I think that John Gray is going to be able to give a little bit of a better start. He's not necessarily the Mona Lisa Vito of starting pitching, but he's able to do a solid job, so I think that he gives up something like 3 or 4 runs over 6 innings. And then with Walker Buehler, he got very badly touched up in his first start of the year against the Arizona Diamondbacks. I think that he's going to be able to have a nice bounce back in this spot because, let's face it, the Rockies, they were able to get some offense generated late, but that's because the Dodgers bullpen itself just really isn't very good, and I think that Walker Buehler is going to have a much better start in this game. And with the Dodgers, Cody Bellinger is right now perhaps the hottest hitter in baseball, hitting .438, 5 home runs, 13 RBI in 8 games. He's absolutely mashing right now. You've got Justin Turner. Max Muncy is finding his way into a little bit of a platoon role. He was able to get 3 hits yesterday against the Colorado Rockies. A.J. Pollock is hitting over 300. Corey Seager isn't even hitting right now, but you've got Kike Hernandez hitting .370. He does a little bit of everything. It's just an overwhelming lineup for the Colorado Rockies. Charlie Blackmon is starting to come around. He had 3 hits yesterday. Trevor Story was finally able to bust out of a little bit of a slump, but they need to get Ryan McMahon and Ian Desmond going. Hampson has 1 hit so far this year. That's just not getting the job done. And then Mark Reynolds comes in, but he's not doing a whole heck of a lot himself. So the Dodgers have much more redeeming qualities. I also like the way that Walker Buehler pitches as well. I think he's going to have a much better outing in this game. So for that reason, I am on the LA Dodgers run line, and I'm on this total under. I am right now waiting to see if this total gets to 10.5 because I'm noticing some steam on the over. 963, 964 on the betting rotation. It is the Kansas City Royals facing off against the Detroit Tigers. Matt, give me some more, goes for the Detroit Tigers. His counterpart for the Kansas City Royals, Jorge Lopez. We are noticing this total at 8.5 in most books, with the over shaded at -120 and the under at even juice, and actually that's the case at all books. And if you like the Detroit Tigers, you are laying between -120 and -122. If you want to take a shot on the Kansas City Royals, you're getting between +110 and +112. Jorge Lopez is just a guy I really cannot back in this spot. He was not very good for this Royals team last year. He had a 6.35 ERA in the starts that he had. In one start so far this year, he gave up 4 runs in 5 innings. He has a little bit of a command issue. He really doesn't have wipeout stuff. And the Royals bullpen, let's face it, it's just not very good. With the Detroit Tigers, their bats haven't really come alive so far, but Nico Goodrum already has 6 doubles so far this year. We're still waiting on Miguel Cabrera to be able to come around with his bat, but Gordon Beckham was able to hit a game-winning home run against the Yankees a couple days ago. And with the Kansas City Royals, they're hitting a little bit better than I expected. Alex Gordon has 2 home runs already. Mondesi towards the top of the lineup has been doing a good job of being able to get on base. I will say that Whit Merrifield has not necessarily been doing a great job in pressure-packed situations, but he's hitting right around 270. We all know about the speed that he has, and Jorge Soler is hitting over 300. He's already matched a couple long balls, and Lucas Duda is a guy that has not really gotten going, but I think that he will as things go along. But in this spot, I do have to take a look at the Detroit Tigers just because I do like their pitching a little bit more. Jose Candelario is batting right around 250 for this team, along with Nick Castellanos. I think that both those guys are going to get going, and you have to think that Christian Stewart is eventually going to get his bat going as well. He has just 2 hits so far this year at the DH spot, but I think that things are going to be able to come around for him. This is a total that I wound up taking under just because the Royals have had a little bit more success hitting so far this year, but I actually do think that the Tigers bullpen is going to be able to hold up in this one, and I just have not been impressed by the Tigers bats in general this year. Matt Moore had a very good start when he took the mound in Toronto a couple days ago. I think this might be a little bit of a career rebirth for him, as a couple years ago with the Rays, he was actually a very good pitcher, so perhaps he's going to be able to find that old form. So going to take this total under, and I'm going to lay it here with the Detroit Tigers, trying to see if the Tigers get down to more around -110 or -115, since I know that people don't necessarily line up to back Matt Moore, but already locked in the under. Next, we go to 965, 966. The Seattle Mariners are in Chicago to face off against the White Sox. It is Lucas Giolito going for the Chicago White Sox. Mike Leake, hopefully it's not oil, going for the Seattle Mariners. Total on this one I am seeing is 9, heavily shaded to the under. Between minus 115 and minus 125 on the under. If you like the over, you're getting between minus 105 and plus 115. If you want to take a shot on the Seattle Mariners, you're going to be laying between minus 110 and minus 115. If you like the White Sox, you're getting between even money and plus 105. This is a spot where I do have to lay it here with the Seattle Mariners. I know that they lost the game against the Chicago White Sox yesterday, but a lot of that was just due to fielding in general. Tim Beckham just has not been good with the glove so far this year with the Mariners. He's committed so many errors that it's really cost his team, but I think that he's going to get that rectified. The Mariners are also, just in general, hitting the cover off the ball. Domingo Santana already has 4 home runs and 13 RBI in 9 games for this team. You've got the likes of Ryan Healy and company that are really stepping up for this team as well. Then on the other side for the White Sox, you've been having a very good start to the year for Yoan Moncada. He is hitting .458. He's hit some long balls himself. Wellington Castillo is not necessarily hitting for power, but he's doing a good job of being able to get on base. I give him some credit there. He's not necessarily a guy that's going to take too many walks, but does a nice job of being able to find a way on. And then Tim Anderson is batting over .400 for the White Sox as well. Eloy Jimenez and Yonder Alonso haven't necessarily got on pace, so I do think that the Mariners do have a couple more bats that they're able to rely upon. Daniel Vogelbach proving to be a very good DH. D. Gordon doing a nice job of being able to get on base as well, though he had only 2 at-bats in that game against the White Sox. He was lifted for a defensive replacement. I think that that's very interesting. I'm going to be checking his status to see if there's any sort of an injury concern or anything like that, because you just never know in those sorts of situations, because he's right now listed as day-to-day along with Edwin Encarnacion. But even if he does not play, I'm still going to be bullish on the Seattle Mariners in this spot. And I do think that we're going to see a little bit of better pitching in this matchup after yesterday. It was just a palooza of hits. Lucas Giolito, not necessarily been the greatest starter throughout his career, and I think that's putting it very mildly, but he's actually off to a little bit of a good start this year, and he ended the 2018 season decent. And Mike Leake is not necessarily going to light the world on fire, but at the same time, he does a good job of being able to limit damage as well. So for that reason, I am on the under, but I'm looking for a little bit of better juice on the under, and I am already locking in the Seattle Mariners. We go to the state of California as it's 967, 968 on the batting rotation. Tyler Skaggs takes a hill for the LA Angels, who play host to the Walker Texas Rangers. Drew Smiley goes for the Texas Rangers. Total on this game is 8.5, minus 110 with the over and under juice at pretty much every shop around Vegas, and this is a line that's fluctuating a little bit. If you like the Texas Rangers, you're getting between plus 120 and plus 113. Meanwhile, if you want to lay it with the Angels, you're going to be laying between minus 123 and minus 130. I do actually like Tyler Skaggs as a pitcher, and Drew Smiley, before this year, I think he last pitched in 2014. This is a guy that has been out of baseball for a very, very long time. I find it very hard to back Drew Smiley in this spot. He didn't necessarily have the best outing in his first start of the year as well, and the Texas Rangers bullpen, though they are 5-2 this year, I do give the Rangers a lot of credit. This is a team that I just have a hard time backing. With the Angels, they are starting to come around with the bats a little bit. Cole Calhoun has now 2 home runs. He's starting to come around a little bit. Mike Trout obviously is Mike Trout. He hasn't necessarily hit for power, but he's been doing a good job of being able to get on base. I do think that Albert Pujols is finally going to be able to get on track pretty soon. He's been a little bit slow to start off this year, to say the least, but I do also like the way that at the bottom of the lineup they're getting some production out of Jonathan Lucroy. He's been a little bit of a nice add for this team, along with Brian Goodwin. He's doing a nice job out there in the outfield. Meanwhile, with the Texas Rangers, they've been ripping the cover off the ball. We saw it a couple nights ago when they hung 11 runs on the Angels. Shin-Soo Choo does a great job of being able to just get on base in general. Elvis Andrus hitting over 400 for this team, as Drupal Cabrera has been doing a nice job of going yard. He's already got 3 home runs. Joey Gallo, we all know him. He's Mr. All or Nothing, but he does have a lot of power, and he's able to put a drive into the ball. But Delino DeShields Jr., at that number 9 spot, he's hitting 105. He has a good glove, but man, if he could only get on base somehow, some way, this lineup would be so potent. I do think that the Angels are going to be able to get the win in this spot, just because I have no faith at all in Drew Smiley. And I actually like Tyler Skaggs as well, but I do think that runs are going to be aplenty, especially with the middle relief of the Rangers not necessarily being great. So with this, I wound up locking in the Angels already, because I see that the Angels are getting a little bit of money on them right now, but I am holding off on the over, trying to see if I can get a little bit of better juice there. 969, 970 on the batting rotation. It is the Toronto Blue Jays in Cleveland to face off against the Indians. Carlos Carrasco goes for the Cleveland Indians. He will be opposed by Thomas Pannone for the Toronto Blue Jays. Total I'm seeing on this one is pretty low. We're seeing 7.5. The under shaded between minus 115 and minus 120. If you like the over, you're getting between minus 105 and even juice. And the Blue Jays, a pretty significant underdog. If you like the Blue Jays, you're getting anywhere between plus 157 and plus 170. If you like the Indians, you're laying between minus 172 and minus 185. If you like the Indians, you got to bet them, and you got to bet them right now because they are getting steamed up nearly every day. I'm noticing there's a lot of money coming in on the Indians, and this is despite the fact that they've got a lot of guys banged up right now. Francisco Lindor is on the 10-day injured list along with Jason Kipnis. Jose Ramirez is now day-to-day for this team as well. They do now have Bradley Zimmer back in the lineup. That is a little bit of a help for this team, but going into Friday's action, Cleveland as a team was hitting just 174. The Blue Jays, not a lot better themselves at 190, but they are doing a decent job of being able to draw some walks as well, which you got to like with the Blue Jays. Justin Smoke is right now day-to-day along with Vlad Guerrero Jr. I just have no idea what's going on with that Vlad Guerrero incident, so that's something I'm keeping my eye on. But Randall Grichuk has already hit 3 home runs for the Blue Jays so far this year. I like what Freddie Galvis offers them at the bottom of the stack. And Carlos Carrasco, we noticed in the second half of the year that he was starting to tail off a little bit. He does a great job of being able to get strikeouts, but he got completely roughed up against the Minnesota Twins a couple days ago. He wound up going 4.1 innings. He gave up 6 runs in that game. He was able to give the team some strikeouts, and he does an okay job of not walking guys, but I actually do think that Thomas Pannone is a little bit of an undervalued starter for the Toronto Blue Jays. We saw him take a no-hitter into, I believe, the 8th inning last year when he faced off against the Orioles. In 6 starts last year, he went 4-1 with a 4.19 ERA, has a little bit of a walks issue. He issued 15 free passes in 43 innings, but he does a good job of being able to limit hard contact, and with the Cleveland Indians having to rely on guys like Carlos Santana and Hanley Ramirez out there in the middle of the lineup, it does really lead me to believe that the Blue Jays can be able to pull off the outright upset here and be able to get the win. So I'm going to take a massive plus price here with the Indians. If you like the Indians in this spot, you got to take the run line just because the juice is just way too much to pay, because I do think that with the Indians so badly banged up, there's just no value. You're betting on guys like Naquin and Jake Bauers being able to produce, and it's just not a spot where I want to be. And I do think that the Toronto Blue Jays are going to be able to hit Carlos Carrasco. I think that guys like Brandon Drury and company are going to be able to get on base. So for that reason, I'm going to wind up taking the over, and I already locked that one in. And I'm right now in wait-and-see mode on the Blue Jays, trying to see just how far that line is going to get steamed up. 971, 972 on the betting rotation. It is the New York Yankees, and they are in Baltimore to face off against the Orioles. Dylan Bundy goes for the Baltimore Orioles. J.A. Hepapare goes for the New York Yankees. Total on this one is ranging between 8 and 8.5. If you like 8, you're going to be laying between minus 115 and minus 120 on the over. Meanwhile, the under is between even money and minus 105. If you want 8.5, the under is minus 120 across the board, and the over is even money. With the Yankees, you're going to be laying somewhere in the neighborhood of minus 178 and minus 185. Meanwhile, if you want to take a shot on the Orioles, you're getting between plus 163 and plus 165. Dylan Bundy, just an unbackable starter at this point. I right now do like this total over just because we know that Dylan Bundy has been prone to give it up, and J.A. Happ in his first start of the season just looked absolutely awful when he faced off against these very same Orioles. And the Orioles do have a couple guys that are raking right now. I like the way that Jonathan VR has been able to provide a good combination of pop and contact for this team. Trey Boom Boom Mancini entered hitting nearly 360 with 3 home runs and 8 RBI. He's doing a great job. And we all know that the Yankees are a little bit of a mash unit. Troy Tulowitzki is on the injured list. Right now, Giancarlo Stanton has been dealing with some injuries. Aaron Hicks is right now on the 10-day injury list. Miguel Andujar seems to have something wrong with him as well. The list of injured Yankees goes on and on and on. But what you still have for the New York Yankees is Greg Bird, who's doing a good job of being able to hit, Gary Sanchez, Luke Voit, Aaron Judge, Brett Gardner, DJ LeMahieu, Gleyber Torres. That's still a really good lineup right there. It's one that I'm going to take my chances on against a Baltimore Orioles team that, let's face it, they just overachieved at the beginning of the year. On the run line, I'm currently seeing the Yankees at minus 115. I'm trying to see if the whole fade the Yankees things continues, because right now I am going to try to hold off to try to get more of a minus 105 or minus 110 juice on the run line, but I think the Yankees are going to come through. I think that J.A. Happ is going to do a much better job in his start than he did a couple days ago, so I think that that's going to turn around. And the Yankees bullpen in general, just much better than what the Orioles can muster up there. We know that the Orioles don't have a good bullpen, and I think that that's going to come back to bite them. So for that reason, I am on this total over, trying to see if over 8 gets to minus 110 juice, and I'm right now in wait-and-see mode on the Yankees run line. We move on to 973, 974 on the betting rotation. It is the Oakland A's, and they are in Houston, face off against the Astros. Wade Miley goes on the bump for the Houston Astros, and for the Oakland A's, it is Aaron Brooks taking the hill. No, not the former starting quarterback in the NFL or the former guard in the NBA. The total on this one I am seeing is between 8.5 and 9. If you like the 9, the under is minus 125, over is minus 105. If you want to go with the 8.5, you are going to be getting between minus 115 and minus 120 juice on the over. The under is between minus 105 and even money. And with the Oakland A's, you're going to be getting between plus 138 and plus 142. And if you like the Houston Astros, you're going to be laying between minus 148 and minus 155 juice. The Astros have really been not able to get out of their own way so far this year, but I will say I do have my questions about Aaron Brooks. He looked very good in his first start of the year. He went 6 strong innings. He was able to fan 6, had just 1 walk, did a good job of being able to limit the amount of hits that were being given out. But I actually love what I saw out of Wade Miley last year with the Milwaukee Brewers. In his first start of the year, he didn't necessarily look great, but he also did not look awful either. He wound up giving up 3 runs on 8 hits, and he was able to strike out quite a few against the Tampa Bay Rays in a 3-1 loss. So I do think that this is a spot where Wade Miley can have a little bit of success. We all know that the Oakland A's can hit, and they can hit well. Chris Davis, already 5 home runs so far this year. Marcus Semien at the top of the lineup has an on-base percentage greater than 400. He's been doing sensational for this team. We all like what Steven Piscotty is able to bring to the fold as well. You do have a couple guys for the Oakland A's towards the bottom of the lineup that are not really hitting thus far. You've got Loreno and Profar that are a little bit hit or miss, and Kendrys Morales needs to pick it up a little bit as well. But with the Houston Astros, they've got their slumping bats as well. Alex Bregman going into last night was not really hitting well, though he was able to do a good job of being able to get on base in the game against the A's on Friday. Jose Altuve and Michael Brantley need to pick it up a little bit more as well. Tony Kemp at the DH spot is not doing a lot, and Robinson Chirinos not really getting out of his own way either. And with the Astros, I do have some serious questions about their bullpen as well. But with that said, I do think that we're going to get a quality start here out of Wade Miley, and we all know that the A's bullpen, one of the best out there in the big league, so I'm going to wind up taking the under and getting a little bit of a plus price there on the under. I was able to get plus 105 juice there, and I do like the Astros in the spot. I do think that Wade Miley going to be able to come through and give this team a quality start, but something that I've noticed is that bettors just don't really like to back Wade Miley. I know this from his time with the Brewers last year, so I am in wait-and-see mode on this figure. I'm trying to see if the Astros dip down to minus 140, might even take a shot on the run line as well. So in wait-and-see mode on the Astros, bar A locked in the under on this game. Now we go to a little bit of interleague baseball, 975, 976 on the betting rotation. It is the Philadelphia Phillies playing host to the Minnesota Twins. Michael Pineda goes for the Minnesota Twins. Meanwhile, for the Philadelphia Phillies, you've got Jake Arrieta on the bump. Total on this one I am seeing is 8 in most spots. I'm seeing 8.5 as well. If you like the 8.5, the under is minus 125. The over is plus 105. If you like the 8, the over is between minus 115 and minus 120. The under is between even money and minus 105. And if you like the Phillies, you're going to be laying between minus 150 and minus 147. Meanwhile, if you want to take a shot on the Twins, you're going to be getting a plus price of between 138 and 135. This is a spot where I've got to go Phillies run line once again. This is a team that is just absolutely mashing the ball at this point. It's absolutely sensational what they're doing. I'm right now seeing a run line price of the Phillies at plus 140. I'm probably going to wind up taking it. I'm right now in a little bit of wait-and-see mode because I did notice that there was a little bit of money coming in on the Minnesota Twins. But with that said, I don't think that this is going to go up or down much from the time of this broadcast. So I'm probably going to wind up taking plus 140. And with the Philadelphia Phillies, they are just hitting the cover off the ball. We all know about the additions. Andrew McCutchen, JT Realmuto, Bryce Harper, Gene Segura, and all these guys are really hitting right now. You add in there Rhys Hoskins, you add in there Maikel Franco, who I would argue is the best eighth hitter in baseball, and it really leads you to just looking at the Phillies being able to dominate in this game, and I just am not a guy that's really believing in Michael Pineda. He missed the entire 2018 season. He looked good in his first start of the year against the Indians, but that was a Indians team that was badly banged up. And then for the Minnesota Twins, you've got some bats as well. Nelson Cruz starting to come around for this team. I like what he's able to provide. We also have Marwin Gonzalez, who just really hasn't been hitting much as of late. I think that he's going to start to be able to get on base, and he's going to start to deliver a little bit for this lineup. But Max Kepler needs to be able to pick things up a little bit as well. Eddie Rosario's in a slump. CJ Cron seems to be doing a decent job, but what are you going to get out of guys like Jacob Cave and company? So I do think that the Phillies should be able to win this one and win this one convincingly. And with the Phillies having a poor bullpen, I just have to take a look at the over in the spot. I'm trying to see if the over gets some minus 110 juice at 8 runs. If not, I'm probably going to look at a plus price on 8.5. So I'm in wait and see mode on both of these Phillies run line and the over, but I'm going to wind up playing both of them. 977, 978 on the betting rotation. It is the Tampa Bay Rays on the road on the West Coast to face off against the San Francisco Giants. For the Giants, you've got Jeff Samardzija on the hill. Meanwhile, for the Tampa Bay Rays, it is the good old to be determined. This means that you're probably going to get an opener. This means that you're probably going to look at a total. I would say if it was 7 yesterday, you're probably looking at 7.5 in this spot. If it's 8, I'm definitely going to be taking the under, even if it is a little bit more juice. But at 7.5, I probably would go under as well. We saw the Tampa Bay Rays be able to get a 5-2 win over the San Francisco Giants on Friday. The bats seem to be really coming around for the Rays, and I do feel like the Rays have the best bullpen in all the big leagues. They are doing an absolutely sensational job of being able to shut down their opponents. Meanwhile, the San Francisco Giants, well, nobody's hitting right now. Evan Longoria, I like in the middle of the lineup, but what are you really getting out of everyone else? Joe Panik isn't really doing a lot for this team. Buster Posey's been in a little bit of a slump to begin the year. You've got towards the top of the lineup Duger, who just really doesn't do much for me. Brandon Belt is batting .214 right now. Brandon Crawford, he gets on base sometimes, but he doesn't have a whole lot of power. Kevin Pillar is doing absolutely nothing. There's just not too many redeeming qualities with them. Meanwhile, Austin Meadows at the top of the lineup for the Rays was able to have 2 hits in that game against the San Francisco Giants. Kevin Kiermaier is doing a much better job of being able to hit for this team. Yandy Diaz is hitting home runs as well. So I do lean towards the Tampa Bay Rays, though I do think that Jeff Samardzija is in for a little bit of a career rebirth. Once again, there's no lineup on these games, so right now I'm just spitballing, but I would think that the Rays would be a slight favorite in this game, and if that would be the case, I would take the Rays and the under. Once again, gotta wait until the morning to give you set plays, and those will be up on my Twitter page at @UNunderscore81. We round it out with 979, 980 on the betting rotation. It is the Boston Red Sox in Arizona to face off against the Diamondbacks. Luke Weaver goes on the bump for the D-backs. Meanwhile, for the Boston Red Sox, you've got David Price. If you like the Boston Red Sox, you're laying between minus 133 and minus 135. If you like the Arizona Diamondbacks, you're getting between plus 123 and 125. The total on this game is 8.5, with the over between minus 115 and minus 120. The under is between even money and minus 105. I do think that David Price really was able to find himself during the postseason last year. I know that he didn't necessarily have the best first outing of the year, but I do think that he's going to be able to get back on track in this game, and I think that he's going to have a quality start. So I do look at this total under. I do think that Luke Weaver is going to start to come around as a pitcher as well. He got roughed up in his first outing of the year as well. He just really didn't have as good command. He was walking a couple guys, and he was just getting hit hard. And we know that the Boston Red Sox obviously have some great bats. JD Martinez hitting over 3 home runs already this year. He's just raking himself. And then you take a look up and down the lineup. You've got Xander Bogaerts, Mookie Betts and company. So it is a very good Boston Red Sox lineup. And for the Diamondbacks, they do have some good bats themselves. You've got like what Dean Peralta is doing for the team. He's hitting over 400. Gerard Dyson is hitting nearly 400. And then the big surprise for this team, how about the way that they've been able to find something at the first base spot with Christian Walker? Going into their game against the Red Sox on Friday, he had 3 home runs, 6 RBI, and was hitting over 360. He had a little bit of an ice cold game on Friday, but he's still doing a very good job for this team. Ketel Marte and Noah Ahmad towards the bottom of the lineup are hitting as well. But I do think that David Price is going to be able to go out there. He's going to have a quality start. I would expect him to go 6 or 7 strong innings, not giving up too many runs. I think that really puts Boston in the driver's seat in this game. And I think that with with Boston struggling, they're due for a big performance. I think it's going to come right here. So for that reason, I'm actually going to bypass the money line. I wound up locking in Boston Red Sox run line at plus 125, and I am on this total under, already locked in the under of 8.5 at even juice as well. Those are my plays on that game, and those are my plays on the MLB betting board for this Saturday. A big thanks to Ryan Spaeder for joining me in the second segment to talk a little bit about the early season going on and just some baseball in general. Really good guy, like I said. Gonna need to get him on the podcast. If you like what you're hearing from this fine podcast, you can subscribe on Apple iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and Stitcher. If you ever have a question for the podcast, feel free to tweet it in at @GUnit_81. And let's make today a fun, successful, and profitable one, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in.